Oh, Josh, wake me up, dude.
Wake me up inside. Save me. Save me. I don't know the words.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Friend of Sinners. We're talking about work and faith. So how was work today?
It was good. I feel like this is like a lead up to a joke or something.
No, it's not.
That was your big intro?
Yeah. What are you doing for work?
I was sweating a lot, redoing pavers and...
Redoing them?
Like they're all sinking down, and so you had to pick them all up and then flatten it and then put a bunch of gravel and stuff and then put them back flatter.
Did you enjoy it?
I enjoy that it's different. I enjoy
Yeah.
that. I enjoy that I'm making more money. That's kind of nice. And I enjoy the labor. It's fun to learn new things.
What has been your most favorite job?
I think I've only had 2 serious jobs. And it was my lighting one.
Oh, yeah.
And then cabinets, and then this handyman thing. Every one of them's had pros and cons.
Do your bosses listen to this? Because maybe you have to say one.
Solomon's listened to a couple.
Okay. So that one's your favorite.
Yeah, Solomon's my favorite. No, I really like the sales and the design part of the lighting one, and I got to see some really, really expensive houses, so that was really cool. And it was cool when people were excited about what I gave them. Just interacting more with clients. So
Yeah.
that was just because I was in charge pretty much. So cabinets is fun. I like working with my hands more. I get to be inside. I like that more.
What do you want to do? Do you have like an idea of, I would love if this was my work, my career, my job?
No, I've never had that.
No?
I was always a little envious of my friend Colton growing up because since like middle school, he was like, I want to like study fish and do that. And there's been little things like...
You don't want to, trust me, you don't want to do that.
Oh, he just got his master's degree in wildlife and fisheries biology. And
That's cool.
So he's always known, and that kind of changed whether he wanted to like be a science teacher or like study it this way or this field or whatever. But it's always like that track. And I've never had that. I've had different like, oh, that would be cool or that would be cool. But I've always had, I want to have a job that I can provide for a family. I want to have something that I will enjoy doing. Like I'm not dreading going to work.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of it. So that was it, which is good and bad because it's very broad and it doesn't narrow it down at all. So it's not helpful, but it also leaves it open for a lot of things.
Yeah. Cool.
Do you like your ministry job?
I love it. Yeah. This is by far my most favoritist job that I've ever had.
Good. I'm glad your job isn't making up words.
Yes, it isn't. No, I do love being a pastor, and it's weird that it's work, but it is. I remember Travis would always joke, he'd be like, I'm a professional Christian. But no, I do love it. It's good. So what do you think about work and faith, Josh?
Well,
what questions do you have?
I want to start with just the work part. Like, do we even have to work? Like, what's the point of work? Why was work created? And a lot of people that probably, I would say more so, people that are in jobs that are just like totally draining them would be like, why am I even doing this? And so what is work? Why do we have work? Do you know?
To eat.
Well, that's, yeah. But why aren't we just in a community of everyone shares everything, and why don't people just give me stuff when I want it?
Yeah.
Because is it like a... Okay, I'm just going to keep asking you rhetorical questions, but I know the answer to it. Was work pre or post fall or sin?
It was pre-fall. Yeah, no,
Pre-fall.
that's why we work, because it's in the design of God. I feel like work is kind of like you were just kind of saying, like, I think it was like Pandora's box when that was open, like one of the things was work. So like work is like evil. It's like, why do we have to do this, that sort of thing. But when you go to Genesis, when you go to the beginning of the Bible, one, you see God working.
Mm-hmm.
God is creating. God is doing something. He's working. And then he makes humanity and he gives them work. Till the garden, care for the garden.
Yeah, one of them, Genesis 2:15. The Lord God took the man and placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and watch over it.
Yeah. Yeah, so work is a good thing. And I think that, what we believe is that ultimately where we're going to be forever and ever is on the new earth and in the new heavens. And I think work's going to be there. And I think it is a good design of God that originally was good and perfect and great.
I don't think a lot of people would be super excited to hear that if they've never heard it.
No, for
in
sure.
heaven, you're supposed to just like kind of float around with angels' wings with a halo, and you just get to eat and drink and be merry. But you're saying we're going to work in heaven. That doesn't sound very heavenly.
Yeah.
It's God's creation. He did it on purpose, for purpose. And it's only, I guess you said Pandora's box and how the hard difficulty came from it. It was after the fall that work became sucky.
Yeah.
It became hard.
Yeah. Well, thorn is, take care of the garden, take care of the ground. After the fall of sin, now all of a sudden thorns are coming out of the ground and now work is painful, work is hard, it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So before where it was a joyful thing that God does and did, and we joined in that, it's like he gave this unlimited potential of the world. And he said, go explore that and take care of it and cultivate it. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But now all of a sudden there's thorns and I'm sweating and it's frustrating and relationship strife. And so employees are getting at each other. So yeah, work has been tainted by sin for sure.
We know we have to work now. Well, that work was created as a good thing, and it's going to suck. It's going to be hard. So I would say steer more towards the younger generation is kind of where my mind goes.
Mm-hmm.
Like people who are going out into the workforce. Maybe you just got out of high school and you're deciding to go work or college, out of college, or just a person who's like in a job that they are just not happy with. So anybody looking for work, like how do you know? Like I said, like there's more places to work now than have ever been, ever. There's so many categories, so many things. Like, is one better than another? Is there like, you have to be a professional Christian? I'm like, I'm a Christian now. I have to work in ministry of some kind. What would you suggest?
No. I'm going to come right to that, but I had a thought that I had thought of earlier, and I think I might have heard it from Tim Keller, just about this idea of God works. He made work in the garden. Well, when God came to earth in Jesus, you'd think a God would show up to earth as a king and he'd be served and taken care of. But our God came and he was a carpenter. He worked. It's in his design. And the thorns, I think this is Tim Keller, the thorns that came out of the curse of the fall of man and sin, he took that and had them slammed on his head. He took those thorns to bring us a freedom out of the tyranny of sin and in our work. And I think only through Christ will we be able to find, even in the most menial burger flipping jobs, purpose and joy and whatever. So, but what you're asking, what should I do for work? Where do I pick, right? Is that basically what you're... Yeah. I don't know. Just go pick something.
It kind of went with our last one.
Yeah, just go do something. If it's not evil, if it's not sinful, then go do it. There was a huge shift with the Reformation when it comes to vocation and work. And that in the Catholic Church, vocation had a divide of this is sacred work and this is not sacred work. This is laity. This is lay people work, and sacred work was the priesthood and working in that way. Flipping burgers, making shoes, whatever was not sacred work. The Reformation has helped with that, and the evangelical Protestant church helps with that to say all work is sacred. There's sacred for the most menial of all tasks. So just go pick something and do it well. And I don't know, what do you like? Do you like working with computers? Do you like working with your hands, construction? What do you like? Go do that thing. What do you hate? Don't try not to do that. You know? I don't know. I think we complicate things too much.
For sure.
Yeah.
Overthinking is a big thing, I think.
Yeah.
So then finding your job, you picked a path. You're like, all right, I'm going to be a mechanic. First thing that came to my mind. So whether you're a business owner or entrepreneur or you're the lowest guy on the totem pole in your job, how can you use your job and combine it with your faith? Like, where's the mixture of those two? Because as Christians and as believers, everything we do, whether you eat or drink or everything you do everything for the glory of God. So how do you, it's 1 Corinthians 10:31. So how do you combine those things? How do you combine work? I'm a mechanic, but I'm a Christian. How do I combine those two worlds together?
I get what you're saying, and it makes total sense, but part of me wants to say, or actually most of me wants to say, they're not two separate things. You are your faith. Your faith should be the center of who you are, and everything else flows out of that. Everything else revolves around that. So if you're working, you are involving your faith. Whatever we're doing this podcast, we're involving whatever. Our faith is coming along with us, whether or not we're, enabling it to come out of us is one thing. But I think there should be a realization that they're not two separate things.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think to start there is a good place to start in knowing, like, I am not my job. I am my faith, and I just happen to work at this place.
So how do you think that perspective would change someone working at a job? Like, what does that change if you have that mentality then?
Well, it'll change everything. It should anyways. I had a few thoughts that I had written down. For one, I think we should realize that we don't have our jobs because we found a company that was hiring and filled out an application and went through an interview process and did well and got the job. We have our jobs because God has sovereignly put us in that place. Now, he doesn't put people, I don't think, in sinful things that some people would call their job. But God has put you there.
You've heard the saying, you are where you're called?
Yeah.
You're called where you are?
Where you are called.
There it is.
Yes. Yes. So I think knowing that and knowing this, that God has put us in our position, should give us a heightened, wider perspective. Okay, there's something bigger going on here. Even though this is such a drag and I'm so discontent in this workplace, God's put me here. That should change the way you clock in, I would think. Yeah.
The Titus 2, 7, and 8. In everything, make yourself an example of good works with integrity and dignity in your teaching. Your message is to be sound beyond reproach so that any opponent will be ashamed because he doesn't have anything bad to say about us. So that's talking about like sound teaching and stuff, but I would kind of throw it in there with work. Teaching is work. So if I'm wrong or taken out of context,
yeah, no, I hear you.
Just do everything without reproach. So whatever your job is, whether you're flipping burgers or you are a courthouse judge or whatever it is. Like, do everything to have integrity in your work. And I've been talking to a couple friends of mine and how the things that just seem so basic are actually the things that make you stand out. Like if you're consistently on time,
Right.
consistently just do the basic work that you are called to do, and you follow through with what you say you're going to do,
You will stand out night and day.
you're going to rise through the ranks so fast.
Yeah.
Like you
Show
stand
up
out.
early.
We had a guy today when I was working with Santos that he was like, "Thank you so much. I love how you do work." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you just like, you told me that you were going to be late." That was the part that stood out to him. He's like, "Oh, yeah, well, we try to communicate the things." So
Right.
that was the most basic of things, and that makes you stand out. So, like, follow through, have integrity in your work. Like, be proud of the work that you're putting. Whatever you're going to do, like, if you're going to make a burger, make it the best burger ever that you are proud. Like, yeah, I made that.
Yeah.
And if there is ever a problem, like if someone ever comes to you and be like, "Hey, what's going on," be above reproach and be above like, don't have any reason for somebody to come against you.
Yeah.
I guess. And you're going to stand out, and you're going to be a light to people and be Jesus to whoever you're around.
Right.
Yes.
I love this verse, but Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. So Christians should view their work and their workplace as they clock in, not as though they're working for this boss, but as though they're working for the Lord.
Right. That was something my dad always taught me.
That should change the way you work. That should make you call and say, "I'm going to be late."
Mm-hmm.
That'll put you in a place of, I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can today. I'm going to work hard at everything I do. I'm going to work honestly. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to steal. I'm going to do this as though I'm doing it for the Lord.
I think it's great. Like, even ask your, like, just try to get that in your head. Like, okay, when you're doing something, be like, all right, if Jesus himself, like, walked in the room, was like, "Hey, I want you to clean this room for me. I'm going to be back," and then walks out, you'd be like, "Oh my, okay." And then you do your thing. But if you have that perspective instead of, "Oh, it's just my boss and whatever," like, he doesn't even really check my work. So whatever. And just making those excuses. And
I've worked in plenty of places where the boss isn't always there, or the owner or whatever, and suddenly if they drive by, the guys who are just sitting around on their phone are grabbing a broom and start sweeping.
mm-hmm.
If they walk by, suddenly they're tinkering around folding towels or whatever,
Right. You're like, "Oh, look at you.
Right.
You have to do something."
Right. I think too, and this is a big one, is that for people of the faith, we find our identity in our faith in Christ. And what that does is that frees us from finding identity in what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's typically how we find identity. Well, I'm a pastor. That's who I am. Well, that's not who I am. So when we have that understanding and that freedom, and my identity is not in this job or not in this salary or whatever, that will free us. If our identity isn't in Christ, but it is in what we do, we're going to be enslaved to that. We're going to worship what we do. We are going to lie, cheat, do whatever we can to make more money, to get to the top or whatever, and it'll enslave us. But having our identity in Christ will free us, and I think will make us better employees and better bosses and better entrepreneurs and stuff. Does that make sense?
It'll make everything better.
Yeah.
Better relationships, better work, better finances and trusting. It'll reduce anxiety. It reduces like all
Right.
the things. And that's not to say that, well, if you wholeheartedly believe in Jesus and do everything that your life's perfect suddenly. But
Right.
God says he'll bless you for it. Okay, so kind of more, I guess, more specific along the same lines, but a little more specific was if you feel like you need to be more outspoken with your faith, because originally we were just talking about that you are a Christ follower who happens to have this job.
Yeah.
How do you, the word ministry is a big one, I think, but how do you make your job your ministry? Do you have to, as in like being a light, being Jesus to people, talking, creating those conversations, do you have to work in a Christian nonprofit or be a professional Christian as a pastor, or can I do it at just my day job? Like, how do you do that? What does it look like?
Yeah, I would say you have to do it. Every Christian is a part of what Scripture shows as the priesthood of all believers. In other words, we all are brought into this position to meet with God and bring God to others, is what the priest would do. And so, yeah, I think you have to. I think it's Jonathan Pecludo. Maybe you've heard him say something like this. He says a lot, I feel like, he says, I think it's, if you're a mechanic, you are actually just like an undercover mechanic or an undercover Christian, something like that. I think it's undercover Christian. Basically just saying like, this is just like, you're a spy in this place. It just happens to be your job, but like you are there with a greater, larger story purpose. You just happen to wear a mechanic's outfit,
Right.
that sort of thing. So, but my original, what I always fall back on and say is the best way to do it is to just be the best employee or best boss or make the best product possible. I hate when companies have a Christian fish on their checks or on their logo or whatever, and they're just terrible. It's like, okay, that's not a good witness.
Right.
So I think keep the fish off your checks, keep it off your logo, and just be the best at what you're doing. Work as hard as you can. I think that's where you start. I think it was Martin Luther. People say it wasn't, but he was saying something like, how would being a cobbler, a shoe repair maker, be a sacred thing? How would you make that sacred and pleasing to God? And he says it's not by putting little crosses on every shoe. He says it's by making the best shoe you can. So that's where I would start, and then I would just ask the Holy Spirit to lead you in your daily interactions. Open that door, Lord. Start praying for somebody and see how God leads you to talk to them, to care for them, bring them a meal. Right. Things like that I think are huge.
Our regular host, Andrew, has brought, he's done that. I think he did a fantastic job. He's told me things of, he's got regulars that he brings cupcakes to, and he knows some of their birthdays, and they give him cookies, and he's just that constant just because he has those regulars. But I was having a conversation, I guess more maybe on a practical side. This is more for, not necessarily, but my conversation was leaning towards a business owner. And he was like, how can I combine, he was asking this question, combine my ministry and my business. Does my business have to be a ministry? Do I have to set aside money every month so that I can give a widow a free whatever or something like that,
right.
and have it set aside and plan for it? And I was like, I don't think so. I'm like, you are a Christian that has a business, but it's a business. You're running your business, and you pray about it. You ask for those opportunities, things like that. And so if it comes up, I think that's great. Just know that you can do that and have those opportunities. But I don't think you have to have it set aside specifically for for ministry. I think you can use it for it though, because like do a fantastic business and make really good money because of all the things we were saying. If you are just doing a fantastic job, people want you back and continually get to use your services because you do an amazing job. So you get to make a bunch of money. And then if you want, then you can take that and you can support people or give to missions or or things like that. So you can use other ways. Like it doesn't, you have a business, run your business.
Yeah. And I think that's cool though too. Like if they feel led to that, I think, we kind of try within the budget to say like we never want to be like in a place where somebody comes to us, a missionary, someone in the church with a need, to be like, well, we can't do that. We just, it's not in the budget. We like to be able to say like kind of just in case budgeting where, yeah, we'll fill that need. We'll help you out. Mm-hmm. So I like that too. To build it within your business is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My last one kind of goes along those lines, and then I don't know if you have any questions, but there's a lot in the Bible about being content. Like you got to just be content where you're at and just be happy with it and do whatever God has you, even where you all are, you're called. And so for those that are in a job that they're like, I'm just kind of here. I'm just doing my thing. Like, is it okay for people to want to grow in a job or to want to make a job that makes a lot more money or change it? Or are we just supposed to be good with where we're at in life?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a few things there. I feel like the idea of trying to get a promotion, make more money, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Mm-hmm. Go for it. Work hard, do those things, and work. I think kind of this goes back to like the original, what does our faith have to do with work? I think Paul told, it was to Timothy, I think, to basically work and provide for your family, and if you don't, you're worse than an unbeliever.
Oh, I have that up, actually.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from First Timothy 5:8.
Yeah.
And it says, "But if anyone does not provide for his own family, especially for his own household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever."
Yeah.
That's really harsh language.
Yeah.
That's really blunt.
Yeah. So it's like, I think that especially hits to men, work, go out there, do what you can. But you were asking,
is it okay to want to grow?
Yeah. Yeah. Grow, do it, go for the promotion, make more money, make more sales, do those things. One, because you can increase the kingdom, I think, giving and sow into the kingdom with the money that you make. Mm-hmm. But I think what's most important behind that is the heart. Why are you doing that? And I think that goes along with the contentment and, this job's a drag. I hate doing this. I'm not content. I think the heart in both things is your heart should be content in the Lord. Mm-hmm. And if it's content because you're making more money and making the promotions, well, you should have a conversation about that. That's leading you to a place that's unhealthy, and it is an unhealthy place. And I get the contentment thing. I've been there for sure. Discontent, unhappy, working a ton, that sort of thing. And I get that's a real struggle. People are in a lot of jobs that they hate, and good Christian people who are in jobs that they hate. And I get that. But I think, again, it's a matter of the heart, because we are called to be content with what we have. Godliness with contentment is great gain, is what Paul said. So it's a fight. I think you have to fight for that contentment in prayer and going to God, asking for contentment with where he has you. And so often, I don't think this is a formula, but so often I see when people get content with what God has them in, he'll bless them,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I agree. I think that's good.
It is really difficult though. I think like you're like super discontent, you know, you talk to somebody, it's clear they just hate their job, you know. One side of that is, well, what are you doing about it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you just wallowing in your misery? Then I'm sorry. You're going to be discontent. Or are you, you know, or you don't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
I was taught growing up, if you don't have a job, then your job is 40 hours a week to go find a job.
Right.
So get off your butt, figure it out. You know, that is a real aspect to this, I think. What are you doing about it? And also, God might have you there in a place to say, you are never going to be content with a job, even as great as it may be. It will never fully satisfy you.
Mm-hmm.
Only I can do that.
And I would say a lot of people are looking at that, kind of going back to the identity, like you find your identity in it. And so if you don't have a job, but you are actively trying, or you aren't happy with your job, and
Yeah.
like you can't find, you're always looking for the next job, or the people that just don't hold jobs, like they're constantly shifting jobs because they're like, I'm just trying to find the one that just makes me feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
Makes me feel like this is the one. I'm just going to feel this instant like lightning zap and this is the one. And if that's what you're looking for, then you're going to be disappointed
Yeah.
a lot.
Every job has its good and its bad.
Mm-hmm.
Every job. And something you were saying reminded me, like, I do think you should go get the promotion, work hard, make more sales, all that good stuff, whatever. But I'd also kind of throw out a caution there, because we do live in a broken, sinful world, and work is broken by the fall of man. In Genesis, again, you remember that they built a tower,
Mm-hmm.
Tower of Babel, and they built that to make a name for themselves, is what it says. That's broken work.
Mm-hmm.
And God let them know it was broken work. And I think oftentimes what the caution is don't try and make a name for yourself. If you're going to make more money to get the position, whatever, to make a name for yourself, you're heading down the wrong road.
Right.
So it's all the heart. That's all of Christianity. All of our faith is a heart depth thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes work. And when you have those things in order, work can be a beautiful thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I know of very, very generous, rich people that you are loaded, but they're loaded like God has been blessing them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like so generous. Like,
Yeah.
they just want to help people because God has given them this stuff. And they're of the mindset that like God gave me this and he can just as soon take it away.
Yeah, they're free from it.
And they just get to give and just give and give. And
It
it's
doesn't own
awesome.
them. Yeah. That is cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll talk about little sneak peek for next time is when you have a job, you've got one, like work really hard at it and don't be lazy, because there's a lot of, like we were talking about harsh language of Timothy there. There's so much harsh, very blunt, straightforward about like, do not be a lazy person. And I think that we can, especially if you like really don't like your job or something, you can just really fall into these pits of I just don't want to do anything. I don't want to work. I want to just do the bare minimum, and not a good place to be in here.
Yeah. And I feel like our faith like is one of gratitude and thanksgiving and worship. I just can't find somebody who's worshiping, who's so grateful and giving praise and is thankful, who clocks in and just sits around and is a lazy bum. I just don't think those two things necessarily will go together, you know?
Right.
I think all the opposite will produce that. So maybe if that's you, you're listening, you're lazy, whatever, I dare you to try to get thankful. I dare you to go worship. It'll change the way you work.
Good thought.
Yeah.
All the good stuff right at the end. Good conversation about business and work and faith and all of that. Like I said, next time we'll talk about
Dungeons and Daddies. What was that?
Is
that what that's called?
Yeah. We will not be talking about that, though it is a funny podcast. We'll talk about work and busyness and laziness and the two comparisons. So stay tuned. Otherwise, comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.